last few years, organizations have aggressively pushed for high performance cultures, leaner teams, sharper KPIs, and faster outcomes. According to several studies, employees have also experienced burnout at their current organization, and yet companies continue to double down on productivity, efficiency, and also performance metrics. So the question is, are we building high performance organizations, or are we quietly exhausting the very people driving behind them? Now, that's what we're going to be unpacking today in this episode of BW People HR Voices. And joining us is a leader who has spent over 2 decades at the intersection of business and people strategy, Mr. Ashish Saxena, the Senior Director and Head HR at CDK Global India. He's also going to be sharing his personal views with us, and he's going to give us responses which will be collectively from his experience in the industry for so long. With more than 22 years of experience, Mr. Saxena has led talent transformation and built performance-driven cultures. His work spans talent management, organizational development, and HR analytics, making him uniquely placed to decode what performance really means today. Welcome, Mr. Saxena. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much, Savi, and thank you for having me.
Well, I think this topic is very, very relevant in today's date and time when we're hearing so much buzz about workplace culture, employee experience, the burnout rates, and especially with AI coming in, it has not been reduced. In fact, it's been doubled according to a lot of reports. But an opening question for you, if your organization's culture had a performance rating given by employees and not leaders, what do you think it would be and why?
So it's very subjective. If you honestly ask me, if I have to look at how performance management an employee would rate, would be very different because for them, if they perceive the hard work, how it is evaluated by them versus how organization evaluate are two different parameters as such. So a lot of times as organizations, we focus a lot on productivity, how
Hmm.
much productive you are, how many number of hours you have spent in the last quarter or so, versus looking at how much actual output has been there. So a
Right.
lot of time when I speak to people, I'm just trying to understand off the coffee shelf or of the pulse service that we'll keep listening to. People say, it's also important to understand where our time is going versus trying to measure 9 hours versus 10 hours. So
Hmm.
I think that definitely makes a lot of difference hearing this perspective from people out there.
Right. So the 70-hour work debate, we've heard a lot about it now.
Oh,
I'll you have any views on that?
Um, I keep hearing and people keep talking in pockets here and there, but I generally personally do not believe we should link productivity and performance to the number of hours that people are putting in.
Right.
You should actually look at how people are performing on the job. Are we giving them the right environment and which is sustainable over a period of time to make sure that deliverables are happening? It's easy to say, you have to work 70 hours, you have to work 6 hours a day. We did it and my dad did it and so on and so forth. I'm sorry, I don't want to quote anyone, but at the point where we are moving across in the industry, how the industry is moving at a different pace, and especially now that Gen Z is coming and started evolving in the industry at every domain, be it IT or any other domain, it becomes very important how we want to measure it. Let's not put a tag of number of hours to measure performance of an individual.
Absolutely. Well, we've also glorified the term high performing employees, high performance for years now. But where do you really draw the line between a high performing culture versus a high pressure culture?
So, Sabi, if I honestly ask me, as I earlier said, I think difference comes down to sustainability.
Hmm.
A high performing culture challenges people, but also enables them with clarity, the support, the environment, the trust. Versus when I look at a high pressure culture, on the other hand, it keeps raising the expectations without creating that ecosystem to sustain them. We need
Hmm.
to make sure that you are giving that them kind of an environment ecosystem they're able to manage everything as they're expected to be. So the real question actually comes across as the organization should ask is not whether people are delivering today, but whether they'll be able to continue delivering in the next 6 months, 1 year, 18 months from now on. So for
Hmm.
me, I think sustaining performance is the actual benchmark for me out there.
Right. Well, I'm glad that you spoke about the benchmark. I want to touch the topic of metrics. How do you really measure performance and what should be the right way of measuring performance? And I'm not just talking about the tools that we have today in the HR systems to measure the work that people are doing, but apart from that, how do you really, what should be the right metric of measuring somebody's performance?
So when I look at it, I think performance should be defined as a combination of outcomes, behaviors, and a long-term impact. So for
Mhm.
me, for most of the leaders in the industry, delivery matters a lot. Oh, I have this delivery that's due in 3 weeks. Let's focus on that. We tend to forget about the long term impact of how this can be. So it's about targets because that's easy to measure. 3 weeks this is required and you get it done and we're sorted with that. But performance is also about how results are achieved through collaboration. Are we thinking about innovation? Are we talking about accountability? That's my bottom line, that's my baby. And most importantly, as I have mentioned earlier, consistency. So to measure the right things, companies need to move beyond just numbers and look at contribution in most more holistic way,
Yes.
especially in today's highly collaborative work environment where we want people to come together, work together, deliberate, debate, argue, but make sure that yes, you are achieving the results that are required.
But realistically, don't you think, at the ground level, this really doesn't work? When there's targets to reach, the employee experience and, the work pressure, it takes a back seat sometimes. So, how do you prevent that kind of a trade-off? And could you give us an example as well from your experience?
So for me, I think as an organization, when I've been in the last 2 decades or so, I think one thing that I've always felt that supportive work environment is really important.
Hmm.
Most of the time when people start talking about certain things, they go unheard. Half of the problem is solved when you just listen to the people. You just sit with them, hear them out, and half of the problem is solved. And they're not looking for solutions every time. They
Hmm.
come to you because they feel they want to talk to you. Have ears to hear them out. And most of the leaders miss that empathy, not sympathy. I think that is really required. And I feel while being in HR, while being in leadership, irrespective of where you are, you're managing people. You cannot miss on that human touch, the human factor. That's where I feel that makes a lot of difference. So yes, the work is challenging, the productivity is going to be measured, the timelines are going to be stretched, the targets are going to be beyond the numbers that we can look at. But these small things matter a lot and it goes a long way. That I've personally experienced and I can definitely vouch for it. Yes, there are going to be times where in pockets people will be burnt out. There are going to be times where people will come complaining back to you. But again, it's a trade-off. You have to make sure that you are able to balance it out with some, okay, I understand, I heard you, let's see how we can manage it. I have gone through this. It's about having those right conversation with the right people, and I'm sure
Hmm.
they will walk with you for the next 5, 7, 10 years as much as you want to do that.
Right, absolutely. With in this digitized world, sometimes, especially, at the managerial level, we forget that there is a work-life balance that should be maintained. You have your phones, AI is there, 24/7. And how do you maintain that kind of work-life balance with everything that's been happening in this digitized world? And according to a lot of reports with AI, as I mentioned before we started our conversation as well, the burnout rate has actually gone up.
Yes,
How do we deal with that? How do you manage that as an HR leader?
I think I would lie if I would say that yeah, work-life balance is something that everyone takes care of as much as they wish to. I think everyone is uh, struggling with it,
Hmm.
to be put it very rightly. But I think as an organization, I think a supportive work environment starts with having the right work design. uh, Employees, when I look at people around working in IT, sitting on the laptops, continuously working on the code, so on and so forth, to make sure they stay engaged when priorities are clear, the rules are meaningful, and the support system around them is their team, their manager. They create that safety net. Guys, we are there, let's work it together. Work life balance is just not about creating certain policies, having certain employee engagement events and making sure that people are engaged. No, it's way beyond that. So it's just not about those activities, but also about having employees having that clarity about autonomy, having that realistic expectation sets. I think those things makes a lot of difference. As a manager, it also becomes my responsibility to assess the workload,
Hmm.
assess how someone is performing anything that they feel has been changing in a particular person over last few weeks or months? So are they looking at certain patterns which were not there earlier? I think those are certain early signs indication where a burnout can be felt. As a
Hmm.
manager, I would rather keep my eyes open and look at those things.
Right. Any initiative that you'd like to point out from your journey that has helped you, address this issue, even in the past organizations of this organization?
I think for me, what I have done as a practice, I keep talking to people,
Hmm.
and I keep talking to people without blocking their calendar. There has to be some offline conversation that needs to happen. People open up a lot when you're talking to them heart to heart, and
Hmm.
they need to have that trust in you that yes, I'm talking to Ashish and I can speak up to him, I can talk to him, and I know it's just not about any kind of a concern or a complaint. It's something that I just want to let people know of it. That makes a lot of difference. I think that's has definitely worked for me, Sabi.
Well, very interesting that we spoke about this because May is also the month of mental health awareness. And, how do you ensure that these conversations do not just peak in the month of May and then fade away throughout the year? A lot of organizations we see, they put out initiatives in the month of May, and then eventually throughout the year, there's a silent period on employee well-being. How do you make sure that this happens all year around?
So I think I would relate this to that's a great point actually, Savi, you made, and I would relate it to something like on performance management. I want people as managers to keep having conversations with their team on a regular basis. Do
Hmm.
not wait for a review period for having those conversations. Last Valentine's Day, I asked you to do this and you did not do it. Nobody would remember that. But
Hmm.
yes, something that happened yesterday, I would get into a room, talk to my peer, talk to my team member, and make them understand this is what was expected and did not happen. That registered
Hmm.
immediately, and person would act on it. Similarly, if I'm talking about making sure or giving a healthy environment, managing those expectations that yes, people are working in sanity, I need to give that kind of environment on a regular basis. Again, comes across sustainability. I
Hmm.
should make sure that I'm having sessions, I'm having programs, I'm having those conversations, informal, formal, throughout the year, making sure these people who have been working hard, burning their midnight oil, get those avenues on a regular basis to talk, to vent out, to have those right opportunities to even go for a badminton tournament if that's something that's going to help them ease out from their work. So
Hmm.
be it. I think you have to have regular things happening all the time. If
Right.
not, there should be someone whom I can go and talk to.
As an HR leader, what is something that you find most challenging in people management?
Uh, Convincing people or helping them understand that a lot of decisions that happens are not taken by HR.
Hmm.
A lot of decisions that are taken are in collaboration with the management,
Hmm.
with the leadership team, and making sure that it is required to have a sustainable model as an organization in the turbulent times that most of the organizations right now are going through. Because anything that people hear on the floor, for example, the raises this time was only 15%. Last year's was 25%. I'm giving an example. Oh, this is something that HR has done. No, HR has not done it. I think that's way beyond certain things. So yes, we are there. We are working with business to make sure those performances are sustained. But is
Hmm.
this an HR decision alone? No. So I think that becomes challenging a lot of times.
Okay. Does it also become challenging at board level where, and on one hand, there's profits and business and the finance team, accounts team, and on the other hand, there's an HR asking for a budget for, let's say, a wellness initiative or something of an employee experience initiative. Now, what happens then? How do you balance that out?
I think it's a paradox if I honestly tell you about that, because a lot of times, yes, those things come across where finance would say, "Oh, I'll have to cut budget, I'll have to do this." I think it's also about planning it better. I
Hmm.
know I have 1,000 rupees in my pocket. I have to spend it wisely. I make sure that I am investing in the right place. So for these wellness session, it's not a cost. I think I'll take it as an investment because this is a long-term thing. It's not a cost for me. It should not be ever considered by any of the teams as a cost. It's an
Hmm.
investment to make sure the people that they are with you are able to make deliver what we are looking at. If I start looking at, oh, there's so much of cost and we have to cut it, I think we are going the wrong way, honestly.
All right. Now, well, a high performer can sometimes fail, and due to a lot of reasons, not because of maybe lack of skill, but because of their incapability with the system design within an organization. Now, what do you do to address that such scenarios they do not arise?
So, a few things that often managers and leaders tend to overlook is that they feel that because someone is high performing, they don't need support. They don't need the kind of development that others need. Someone is already top three in the class. Oh, he's anyways a topper. He doesn't need anything. But these toppers as well need that kind of a support system. They need the right kind of trainings. They need that right kind of an environment as well. So yes, it does happen. It happens quite frequently in a lot of organization, and it highlights the important reality that it's just not about individual capability, but it's also about organizational fit and system design, how we are doing it. So
Hmm.
struggling in environment where decisions are unclear can actually lead to certain of these things. So you have to make sure that these people who could be potential leaders in the future are part of discussions and a lot of things that may affect their work, if not decision making out there.
Right, right. I'm sure in your 22 years of experience, you've come across all the generations. There are five generations currently working at a workplace, and I'm sure it will be very different from each other and difficult to manage all of them. What are some of the similarities in terms of performance and also just managing the generations in general, their expectations from an organization, from an HR? What are your views on that?
That's a tough one for sure. I never thought about it that way. Yes, you rightly said. I think from when I started, I was definitely at that point in time a Gen Z for the baby boomers when I was working there.
Hmm.
The things that have changed is that a lot of times people have a tendency of taking load on their heads. Or I have to do. I think, and I would give my example for my dad from that generation. Even when I speak to him today, the kind of sessions or the lectures that I get, you don't do this, you don't do this, look at this person. I
Hmm.
think the recent generation, they don't get into comparison. I know what is to be done, I know what is right, I'll make sure it deliver. So don't be after my life, don't nag me. You have
Hmm.
given me, fill it, shut it, forget it types. For me, a lot of time things come into picture where I feel a sense of urgency is missing. You know, you have been given something. I think it's important that I'm on top of it. I'm going back to my right stakeholders and giving the updates, what's happening, what's not happening. And a lot of people tend to sit on it. I'm working on it. I'll give you update when it's done. No, it's making the other generations a little impatient. Is something happening or is something not happening? Did you get what I was asked, what I asked you to deliver? Are there any changes that you want me to make sure that helps you deliver the right thing? So those things are generational gaps, I would say, and there's nothing right or wrong in that. From when you look at from their lens, they are doing the right thing. They're on top of it. When you look at from my lens, come on guys, speak up. Do you need something extra? I haven't heard from you in the last 2 weeks. I think that's the difference out there.
Hmm. Hmm. Absolutely. If you had to redesign performance management from scratch today, what is that one thing you would completely remove?
A lot.
Okay,
uh,
you can go ahead with three, four things.
no, no. I think I'll keep it simple. I think I would completely remove. And again, it's very generic to organizations that I have worked, I have seen, or experience even right now within the industry, is overly rigid annual performance reviews that we end up doing. And what I would definitely do is being more cautious, making sure it's coaching led performance models where managers regularly, as I mentioned earlier, guide employees through regular feedbacks, the growth discussions, and having those career development conversations. I think that's important. It should not feel like a once in a year activity. It should be more of a an ongoing partnership. You
Hmm.
know that we both are working and we have to work in tandem for a very long time. It's important that we understand what's working well, what's not working well. What is my expectation? What is your expectation? It has to be both way. It cannot be a one-way street. And I need to understand as a manager what are the strengths and opportunity areas for my team member and keep on building on that. I think that's really important. Once in a year activities definitely should be out. It should be a regular and a continuous working model for me.
Right.
Very
Okay,
simple.
perfect. What are you in favor of? Is it smart work or hard work?
Smart work.
All right. Well, how would you want your teams once you retire, you move on? How would you want your team to remember you as an HR leader?
A people person.
Mm.
I think that's what even today, I think a lot of my previous organizations, and I happen to bump into few of my previous old colleagues or people who I've worked with business. I think that's something that I feel it's definitely one thing that I would carry with me when I retire. Being a people person, being on the floor, talking to anyone and everyone at any topic. I
Mm.
think that's something that I've earned in the last so many years, that people can come and talk to me about anything. So it doesn't matter right after so many years I'm the head of HR, but there was a time when I started my career. Even at that point in time, seniors used to come and vent out, this
Mm.
is not happening and he's not listening and that's not happening. It's not that I had a solution. I think it's just about listening to them. As I said, have ears to hear them out and a lot of problems get solved.
Mm. So, what's your trick? I mean, how did you become the CHRO? How were you a high performing employee?
I was not a high performing employee, honestly. I've never been a class topper. I think I was always a backbencher. I think I just did the right thing. I would very
Mm.
honestly put it across. The right thing in terms of knowing what is to be done and knowing what not to do at the same time. So that those were few things that I always believed in. And I think I always had the values on my sleeves. I think that was really important. You have to live with it. There are certain things that I feel should not be compromised. Our integrity, core values, which you feel you have grown up with, and that's something that you should inculcate in your team as well, just like you would do with your kids, having the right things to understand and deliver. It goes a very long when people remember you for a very very long time, for a lot of things that you have done out there.
Now, 5 to 7 years down the line, how do you envision a future HR office?
A very strong business partner model for sure.
Would you like to
Right
elaborate on
now,
that?
yeah, of course. So right now, even if I look at it, there are organizations who are mature. There are a few organizations who are on the way to maturity,
Hmm.
and a lot gets speed up. A lot gets empowered when you have the right HR practices in place. You have the right kind of system supporting the business that is working over there. So when it comes to a very simple example, when it comes to hiring, every organization is hiring, but at the same time, I was just reading right now, Facebook is firing about 8,000 people, and today morning 1:30 a.m., 4 o'clock Singapore time, they just sent an email, you're fired. Right now when I'm talking about hiring, a lot of times, most of my previous experiences, people just say, okay, you have to hire, and you just go start hiring, finding the resumes, getting the interview done. Nobody questions why do you need that. You have people in your team, start questioning them. Are they being utilized to their full potential? What is their utilization? If you are utilizing them to 70% on a group of 25 people, how do you look at productivity? That's where I want the HR team to step up in the next 5 to 7 years and work with business to making sure these things are working in tandem with HR. Not decisions are not taken in silos where business feels I need 10 team members and HR gets into hiring 10 team members. That's the difference that I should see in the next 5 to 7 years.
Lovely, very well put. Mr. Saxena, do you think job descriptions today have become obsolete?
Yes and a no. Yes, because a lot of times when I look at hiring people, when I talk to them, when I interview them, for them, what they want to understand, what's in it for me versus what you're describing on the paper.
Hmm.
So there is a gap. Let's accept it's not only about a Google or a Facebook or Meta or any other organization for that matter. A lot of organizations have fantastic job descriptions. Now you have video job descriptions, you have audio, and you have so many different ways of making sure the job description is there. Do we follow all the job descriptions to the T when a person is onboarded? The answer is no.
Hmm.
Potentially, 30 to 40% of the work that is mentioned, yes, so it would be there. Rest, a lot of things would be generic in nature.
Hmm.
So that's where I feel it is becoming obsolete. I think what we should move and focus more on, this is what I do, this is what I am looking at. What are your thoughts around this? And let's take it from there. This is my product. I'm struggling over here. I'm just giving an example. I'm struggling over here. What are your thoughts? I can make it much better to be sustainable and efficient and be sellable in the market. And
Right.
of course, at the same time, the competitors should look at, wow, what a product and how we can deliver it better.
Perfect. Well, I'll end with a very silly question. If I had to make my resume today and send it to you, what should be at the top of my resume? This is for everybody who's watching this video, all the HR professionals, the students. So give them a tip on what to put in a resume.
Okay, I would say the resume should not. So I'll keep on looking at a lot of resumes with 22, 23 years of experience. My resume is still about 1.5 pages or so. I
Hmm.
still try to compress it to one page. For whatever reason it doesn't happen. A resume should be one pager. It should definitely talk about the achievements, highlights that you have done in the last few organizations that you have worked, because that catches the attention. Savi has been in the media industry for the last 20 years, for example, and she has interviewed Prime Minister Narendra Modi. That's going to catch my attention in the first place. To reach that level, you definitely need to have a lot of potential. Yes, the right candidate for me. Let's try not to use jargons. I generally don't like where people use jargons. I don't like where people put a lot of chat GPT
Hmm.
conversations in there, try to glorify the resume. In the initial 10 minutes of a conversation during the interview, you can figure out which direction the interview is going. That's as easy to make it out. So those are few things that I would expect in a resume for sure.
Perfect. All students watching this, they've taken notes. We'll now move on to the rapid fire round, and I need only one word answers and no explanations.
Okay, I'll try for sure.
All right. One performance metric you secretly disagree with.
Number of hours that I've worked.
Talent density or talent loyalty?
Density with the flavor of culture for sure.
One sign of burnout leaders usually miss.
Emotional burnout.
Data driven performance or instinct driven evaluation?
Data informed but human led.
One mistake companies make with high performers.
I think I said this earlier as well, assuming these toppers don't need any support.
One skill HR leaders must build in the next 3 years.
Understanding business and financial acumen.
Okay. One word to describe the future of work.
Be adaptive.
Lastly, if not HR, what would you have been today?
I would have been into product development, CAD CAM, AutoCAD designing. I would have been there.
All right. Any last piece of advice for our viewers, for your peer HR professionals, for them? Anything?
Uh, okay, I'll keep it very simple. At the end of the day, performance is built through clarity, purpose, trust, and good leadership. And I think organization that will truly stand out in the future as we move along are the ones who give that environment and ecosystem where people can perform at their best without losing themselves in the process of being evaluated on a lot of parameters which can be shelved over a period of next few years to come.
Well, on that note, thank you so much. What a wonderful and candid conversation. Thank you for your time, and hope to stay connected for more such episodes. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Savi. It was lovely talking to you, and thank you for having me.